Well, hello everyone. I am taking a look at a new knife here. However, well, it is Kizer. And before then, I did want to kind of give an update on another Kizer that I got. One that yeah, as one commenter put it, it's a double detent Towser K. So I did get in contact with Kizer. They have kind of an interesting way of I guess, doing stuff. They ended up sending an email basically saying, here's the model I have, here's the problem that I have, and then I sent them a video clip of it. Through email, that's a little crazy, so I actually filmed it in like 720p, and it was still like 13 megabytes, which is, still a little too large for a lot of emails to deal with. But I guess since they're expecting that, they were perfectly fine and took that. Yep, you go through that tier 1 tech support of which I actually thought was interesting was, well, if it doesn't work and you've stated in your original email that you did try loosening and tightening the pivot, you can try to disassemble and reassemble the knife to see if that fixes anything. And, I got back to him and said, yeah, unfortunately, I've done that now, and I'm still having that same issue. And, yeah, they got back to me with, hey, so we talked to the engineers, and, yes, it seems that there's a problem with this knife. We don't have any extras of this available, but if you want the red one, we can go ahead and send that out to you right away. In which I was like, well, I do like this one, but no, I'll go for the red one. Why not? It'll be interesting because they're supposed to be contoured micarta scales, so it'll be a little bit different experience than that. And then they sent me a tracking number for it. I think it's going to get here in a couple of days. But interestingly enough, they never really wanted or mentioned that they want this knife back. Which, for one, I find fascinating and kind of intriguing, because that means that I have a little more carte blanche to be able to try to fix this on my own by filing down a little bit more on the lockbar and things like that. And hey, I might get 2 Towser Ks out of it. That sounds pretty damn good, because, if this thing locks, it's an amazing knife with multi-row bearings, all that good stuff. The other thing that really surprised me was they didn't really ask for any kind of proof of purchase or anything like that. I mean, I know this is a very, very new model, so it's really unlikely that, I would have purchased this secondhand and then tried to claim the warranty on it or something like that. But yeah, there was no mention of, all right, well, where'd you purchase the knife from, or can we see a receipt or anything like that? That just wasn't part of it at all. So yeah, it's apart from the day to day and a half between email communications back and forth between their customer service team, which they already state on the website. Hey, I understand. Yeah, everything seems to be going swimmingly for that. So, unless that red Towser K that comes in is also kind of jacked up, then that was a lot less painful than I'd imagined. I'd imagined it was going to go. Oh yeah, it does look like there is a problem with that. So, well, here's a shipping label for it. Can you send it back to us? Once we get it, we'll either try to do the repair on it or replace it and go about it the same way. I wasn't thinking that I was going to fail in an attempt to get the knife resolved. But hey, I mean, that certainly works out in my favor. So yeah, kudos to Kizer on that. As far as the Rapids goes, I mean, this clip is holding up super nice. It does have just a little tiny bit of wiggle, but most Kizers end up doing that because they don't actually inset them into the the material themselves. This one, brand new. It does it just a little tiny bit as well. And that's after I basically swapped the clip and the, more importantly, the screws with the Olight Beagle that just kind of came in a few days afterwards. And the screws work on both of those, so I didn't really feel like trying to deal with that, even though basically I think they would just send me another clip. Or at least I would hope so. I couldn't imagine you'd want to try to replace a whole knife with that. All right, cool. Yeah, all of that out of the way. Let's actually get into this this new knife here, and this one, I'm going to call the Kizer lesbian, and and this is really stupid reason why I want to do that. You can see this. It's got thumb stud. Here we go. I don't know what it stands for, but the name of this is the PPY. Yeah, let that sink in how stupid that joke is, but nonetheless, that's how my brain worked. Okay, so this thing does have quite a bit of interesting things kind of going for it. First off, what I do want to kind of say is it does remind me a little bit of kind of an amalgamation of manganus. This is obviously me swapping some things around, but I do have the copper up here with the micarta and the thumb stud kind of thing of a Begleiter. Obviously, this has a little bit more of a spear point rather than a upswept tip, but so maybe just a little bit more like a Domin, but I don't have one of those, so there you go. Yep, it is a little interesting. This one, however, is full micarta. It's just the front of it is red, and the back of it, well, they say gray or black. And I suppose under the light, it does look a little bit different than the green micarta on this one, even though these are two very different micartas. So, yeah, I'll definitely go with that. What is interesting, on the back, not quite as much, but on the front, it actually looks a lot like it was from the same piece that it was cut and then dyed or whatever, just with the way that some of these end up matching up. Obviously, that's not the case. But, okay. So, this thing is actually fairly small. We got a 3 1/4 inch blade on this thing, but, hooray, hooray, I could still get all of my digits on there. And I even have just a little bit of room if I want to scoot up a little bit. And they have ample jumping over there for me to be able to do that if I'd like to. One of the reasons why I said it reminded me of a Begleiter is proud liners, which, yeah, not exactly the ideal, but hey, Azo apparently likes to do that on a ton of knives, and it's not too bad here. It's like that Begleiter 2 there that I was showing. It's not actually all that bad, and you do have, for lack of a better term, wide hips on the scales on here. So my thumb and fingers do kind of drape over that, so it's not very uncomfortable like it can be on some other models. And it's also not super over the top, like, say, yeah, this Migron Valona. So this thing is quite a little compact package. It's also, you know, as I had mentioned earlier, an ASO design. Probably looks a little funky because, well, I did treat it with some Tough Glide that just recently dried, so it probably had some little particulate on there. I am super, super happy to see that Kizer is switching their Vanguard steels, for the most part, over to the 154 cm from the N690 that they have been using there for a while. I mean, N690 is fine, but hey, I do like 154 cm a little bit more, and I guess for us here in the States, that's a little bit more of a victory for us because that's a crucible steel. So it's using American steel, and I'm not sure about this one in particular, but I do know that Kizer does like to try to source their micarta from American sources, so quite a bit of it is that way. Obviously, it's still made in China. No getting around that, especially not at the price point for this thing, which is $58. And then, if you use somebody or other's code on White Mountain Knives, which is where I picked this one up, well, that'd be just a little bit cheaper. So, yeah, that's super nice. It's got some pretty nice action. It's not quite as finger severing in the drop that the Begleiter 2 is, but it does have a very, very nice frictionless feel to it. Nice and satisfying the whole way around. And that's basically the smaller ceramic bearings on here and the brass cages, as well as the detent and all that other good stuff. We do have T6 construction on the outside here, except for the pivot, of course, which is T8. Kind of your standard fare. And, yep, they still don't really have that inset into the handle material. But, hey, I mean, you can attempt to inset into micarta, and sometimes it doesn't work out all that great. So, at least they have flush screws, and you got plenty of room for pocket material in there, too. This one actually is just a little tiny bit loose out of the box, and, that just basically will make it a little bit easier for it to get in and out of your pocket, because it's not, being forced absolutely with a ton of force down into the scale material. But, yeah, so we can move on from there a little bit. The blade stock thickness on this guy is 2.8 millimeters, so super nice and slicey. This is, you can see it's basically a full flat grind. We do have a little bit of kind of upswept from the plunge grind there. So you do have just a little bit more steel kind of back behind there. We've seen that on a few knives before. Nothing particularly wrong with that. You just have a little bit more structural stability and thickness in the back if you're really trying to power through a cut, and you get a little bit slicier out towards the tip. The tip on this thing isn't incredibly dainty, at least for the blade stock thickness on it. So that's all perfectly good. You can spidey flick that thumb stud out there if you'd like, as well as, of course, the thumb stud there. This does not have a flipper tab on it, as you've certainly been able to see by this point. And I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm kind of one of those things of kind of in the camp on flipper tabs of, hey, they're nice, but, it's not the only deployment mechanism that I will settle for. I really do like the fidgetability of using my thumb for opening up a knife, so that ticks that box. I suppose I'm kind of in that camp of not super crazy about deep carry clips in general, just because I don't really think they have that need, and it actually makes it just a touch more difficult to pull them out of your pocket because they're deeper down in, so you got to grab a little bit deeper. That's just me kind of being old, I guess, compared to when I got into knives in the late 90s and early aughts. But, yeah, super nice. And, well, I mean, the scale material actually is fairly thick on this. But because of the blade stock and everything, it is 0.5, or, yeah, 0.5 inches. So, right around a PM2. Speaking of which, I should probably do some of those size comparisons. So, yeah, there we go with the PM2. Benchmade 940, which is interesting, just a little bit larger than this guy. So. Let's see. Well, since it's kind of smaller, let's go with the K-bar Dozier in D2 and the Kalashnikov 74. This is the Desert Warrior variant. But the only thing that makes me sad on these guys is that at least these initial runs here are in AUS 8. They're not in the D2. Which, hey, I mean, they still do a good job on the heat treat, so I haven't really had too many problems with that blade. But, more edge retention is always a good thing in my book. And I don't really need to go into the huge knives like the Endura or anything like that because it's much smaller. So, yes. So, the other thing that is quite nice about this thing is the weight on it. You can see in here that they have done some milling out there, and we don't really have too much in the way of a backspacer, just a couple of barrels here. So, this one does make it in that, yes, in that weight to length kind of ratio, where we got 3 1/4 blade. They stayed 3.3, but basically from the edge of the liner here to the tip, I got 3.25. And yet, it's 2.85 ounces, or 81 grams. So it's under that ounce and inch category that a lot of people who are looking for lightweight knives will probably appreciate. And in that particular way, the Rapids is a larger knife, but it also has G10 incorporated on there. It's much heavier, so this is a little bit more pocket friendly during the summer months, which unless you're in Australia, it's not that right now, but that's still perfectly fine. We do have a nice amount of what's the word for it? Lockbar hexes here. We don't really have any scalloping or anything like that, but it is quite equal on the other side, so I don't really have a much of a hot spot going on there, and it's super easy to access everything that's there. Let's see where the detent engagement with the lockbar is here, which is maybe a little late for flipper tab knives, but because there isn't really a flipper there, this is absolutely not a problem whatsoever in my book. You don't really have anything hitting you that would prevent that. And even when you do, it doesn't have a reverse detent ramp, but very easy to break that and get that detent onto the blade there. This thing also, I have sharpened it up. It did a pretty good job on the best tester here. I'll float it past the screen for you. It got basically a 265, so pretty decent for a brand new sort of thing here. But I do like to take my 154 cm down to 17 degrees, which is what I've done here. Now it's super, super nice and slicey. One of the ways that... I threw it away. One of the ways that I've been kind of using as a test bed for sharpness is something like this. This is, I actually use it mostly for applying stuff like Tough Glide or cleaning off knives if I get some rubbing alcohol or acetone on it. It's they're actually apparently nail wipes, and they're, as far as I'm concerned, they're absolutely miserable for that. But for knife maintenance, these things are fucking fantastic. Pardon my language if that bothers you. But yes, these are basically tightly woven cotton little pads. So it's a little bit like gun cotton, but a lot more stiff, and you don't have any of those frayed edges sort of coming out there. And this stuff, if you don't have an incredibly sharp knife, can't really slice through this because it has a lot of the same cutting characteristics that paper towels do, just a little bit thicker. But yeah, once you do actually have a really, really nice sharp blade, it will slice through that. So that's kind of the, yeah, you can see as I pull off, it's got some frayed ends and stuff because it doesn't really want to tear. But yeah, that's kind of where I will test to make sure that my knife has enough bite to it, as well as the fact that it really, really does need to be nice and sharp to get through that without tearing it or slipping out and all that stuff. So yeah, this thing does a pretty darn good job, especially after being sharpened here. I sharpened it on the Work Sharp Precision Edge. And yes, I do like this thing quite a bit. I'm not going to lie to you, at the beginning here, when I first saw this thing available, which wasn't very long ago, like maybe a week, I did think that it was going to be a little bit larger, a little bit more like a Begleiter. But, you know, it is a little bit smaller. But, as I'm saying, I really don't have any problems getting all 4 of my fingers up there. And I also have that ability to choke up even further, so I really don't have any complaints about it being a little bit smaller. Most of the time, if I'm getting a knife that's like 3 1/4 inches, I'm super worried about the fact that it's not going to fit in my hand and it's going to be like a 3-finger knife. But hey, this one has a great design for being able to make that compact and super nice and light. So I definitely like that. It's probably not really necessary for me to do the disassembly of this thing here, because you've probably seen a disassembly of a lot of other Kizer knives recently. You got the skeletonized liners in there. You got the couple of those things, back spacers, that being the thing I'm talking about, and the bearings there that are fairly small in size compared to some of the other companies. And that's just mostly down to the just the pivot area that they got going on there. But yeah, I really can't find a whole lot that bothers me. You know, in an absolutely perfect world, I wouldn't have the shadow box liners. But like I said, this is done to a bit of a minimal nature, so it's not getting too uncomfortable for me if I have my thumbs back there trying to power through a cut. Yeah, I just like this thing as kind of a smaller EDC that will work for you know, us with the larger bear paws, if you will. Yeah, I do like it quite a bit. So I'm definitely glad that I picked it up. All right, well, this has gone on a bit long. You know, and obviously it did that with me giving the Kizer update there to begin with. So I will go ahead and leave it at that. This is another one of those new releases. One of the, I think, 15 that Kizer is basically trying to get out the door by the end of the year. This is one of the last ones for that. Which, hey, that's nice, because outside of Civivi/We, a lot of other companies have been very, very slow to kind of roll out new models. I still have a Kershaw Lucha in 20 CV that I have ordered. And yeah, it's been a year, and Kershaw is still yet to produce them. But so that is certainly one thing that's on my mind in that particular capacity of some companies being slower than others. But, all right, yep. As always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo. You look good today. You should subscribe.